לשמוע, אני רוצה לראות את הכבוד שלך, לראות את הפנים שלך, לראות אותך כמו מי שאתה, משיח ישראל. קח את עיני ליבי אדום, קח את עיני ליבי, אני רוצה לראות אותך, אני רוצה לראות אותך. קח את עיני ליבי אדום, קח את עיני ליבי, אני רוצה לראות אותך, אני רוצה לראות אותך, לראות אותך וניסה זוהר באור נפשך, לשפוך את רוחך ששרים כנס, לראות אותך, לראות אותך וניסה זוהר באור נפשך, לשפוך את רוחך ששרים כנס קדוש קדוש. אני רוצה לראות אותך, עייז אשופה. קח את עינינו, קח את עיני ליבי אדום, אפתח עיני יא עלי, אני רוצה לראות אותך, עייז אשופה, לראות אותך וניסה זוהר באור קודשך, לשפוך את רוחך ששרים קדוש, אשובך עייפו الكل, حبك يملأ بكياني, تملك علي بالحب وأعيش لك كل يوم في حياتي. קדוש, 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 אני רוצה קדוש, 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 עייז אשופה, עייז אשופה, קדוש, 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 עייז אשופה, עייז אשופה, תראה את הכבוד שלך כאן בארץ שלך ציורית עליך אתה מוסתחקו תמשוך את תשומת הלב שלנו אבא עלינו עליך ישוע יושב עמומי לראות אותך בלי שום הסחור לראות הנה זה האלוהים נושא חטאת עולם 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 הוא עבר המלולו ירפעו חטאת العالم הוא עבר המלולו ירפעו חטאת العالم אני רוצה לראות אותך אני רוצה לראות אותך אני רוצה לראות אותך אני רוצה לראות אותך הנה זה האלוהים נושא חטאת עולם הנה זה האלוהים נושא חטאת אני רוצה לראות הנה זה האלוהים אני רוצה לראות נושא חטאת
when it gets below 70, and so it's a little warmer upstairs here. What is that?
Mic was off for you.
Oh, okay. Shalom, hi everybody. Isaac just told me the mic was off, so if you can read lips, you understood what I was saying. If not, I'm just showing you that I'm wearing a fur jacket here, fur lined because it's below 70 here in Hawaii. I've got my thick socks on too, and everyone in Digital Readers Club was giving us a hard time because we get cold when it gets below 70, when I'm sure most of you are experiencing what I've seen on the media, that there's blizzards going on, there's record low temperatures at certain places in the country. So just pray that all of you are keeping warm, except Adrian and any of those in Australia. Donna, you guys are in middle of summer from what I understand, and it's very warm where you're at, down under, I guess you could say, or Australia. But beautiful, beautiful land. We were just there a couple months ago. It's just gorgeous. We can't wait to go back. But anyway, we just had a wonderful reading in Digital Readers Club. If you didn't make it there, you can go back and rewatch. We just had a wonderful conversation at the end as well. We were talking about, ironically, and I didn't even do this on purpose, but ironically kind of leading into what I'll be teaching on today. You don't see Noble here, unfortunately. You can pretend he's over here. Kaylee's going to be joining me after the first hour to help me read a little bit. But Noble is continuing to work on a property remodel that we've been doing for the past month or so, a little bit longer, I think, than a month now. And he's just working vigorously to try to get this done. So again, I will be teaching today, just like I was last week. Hopefully we'll get Noble back over here for next week so we can have a proper Hebrew lesson. But as of today, if you saw the title of my teaching today, it's what happened after the garden, or what happened after the incident and the judgment given in the garden. Yes.
Auntie Sherry said, Lisa, I'd be in shorts if it were 70.
Well, yeah, I think what happens over here is that our blood thins or our skin gets thin or something, because Anytime below 70, maybe even like 65, I get very cold, and so that's why I'm wearing this. Although it is warmer, we're upstairs here. I was downstairs doing reading for digital readers, and I was very cold down there. But upstairs the heat rises, so the production room that Isaac and Kaylee so graciously let us use in their house is much warmer, so I might eventually be taking off this jacket. But I did have the hood up downstairs. You can see, it's like a fur hood, so it does keep me very warm. But yeah, great to see all of you. We're going to go over some prayer requests first, but first of all, I'd like to ask Isaac if he could open us up with prayer, and then if you do have prayer requests, Kaylee is monitoring the chat, so she can pass over any new prayer requests to me that are not included from our slides. Okay, so, Isaac's coming on screen. Okay, and maybe you might want to explain your shirt before you open us up.
No, it just says...
Why is he wearing a shirt that says cocaine?
If you know anything about Coca-Cola, when it first came out, it had, a little bit of cocaine in it, for like energy.
From the coca leaf.
From the coca leaf,
all natural.
Yes. It's all natural, obviously. But then, so it's got the logo, the logo typing, says cocaine everywhere. And then, of course, there's a kitty in snow. So, I got this for Kaylee. This is actually Kaylee's sweater.
The joys of marriage.
Yes.
They share clothes. So cute.
I got her this, I think it was your birthday last year.
Yeah, it was.
It was for your birthday last year. Yeah.
Okay, well, Isaac's going to pray us in whenever you're ready, Mr. Cocaine.
Anyway. All right. Thank you, Yeshua, for another amazing day. Thank you that you are always with us in everything that we do, everything that we say, wherever we are. And thank you that even if we're in the bowels of Sheol, you are there. And even when we are at the top of the mountain in the highest of the heavens, you are there. So thank you, Abba, for being who you are and the God that we get to serve. Thank you for calling us to your kingdom. Thank you for calling us to do what you have asked us to do. May this lesson be fruitful, and may everybody that hears it glean something off of it, and whatever you're saying, that they would hear it. Above all these things, may my will not be done, but yours alone. In Yeshua's name, thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Isaac. And also, I wanted to announce too that if you guys would like to join us on Discord to vocalize with us, to ask questions like verbally instead of in the chat, or to offer any other insight you'd like to, go on over to Sacred Word Publishing Discord server. We were just on it for Digital Readers Club, and Isaac's got it set up so they can actually see the screen today, which is awesome.
Right below the camera. Hey guys.
So, I'm not sure who's on. Did you see if anybody's on?
I saw
Discord?
Adrian right now.
Okay,
so.
Adrian's there. Maybe Aldion will join us. But yeah, so that's another option. But otherwise, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have prayer requests, go ahead and put those in the chat, and Kaylee is moderating for the first hour on there. So
and you can entertain me in the chat too if you want to. I'll be chatting as well.
And thank you for our faithful moderators. I saw Tammy in there, Monkulis. I'm not sure if anybody else is in there. Do you see anyone?
Auntie Terry.
Auntie Terry. Oh, I always do that. Say Auntie Terry. Terry Todd. Great. It's great to see you back, sis. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you guys for moderating, and make sure to keep out any of those bots from coming in and saying all kinds of weird stuff. So anyway, but let's get started. We could do prayer requests. The first prayer request that we have, thank you, Isaac. The first prayer request we have is for Christy Frost. She cannot be with us tonight. She's doing some things, going out with her sister, she said, but she contacted me earlier today just because her ongoing prayer request for her dogs and for her finances has been going on for quite a while, about a year. She has 2 dogs that one of them is having issues with the eyes. That's Bailey. The other one is Lizzie, and she called me to let me know that Lizzie passed away. She said they were planning to start chemotherapy treatments for Lizzie this week, but she passed away several days ago. So please keep Christy in prayer. For those of you who have pets, you know that those are like family, and that definitely was her family. That was like her first priority, she said, after the Most High God. So we just keep Christy in your prayers, and she'll be joining us again next week, she said. So We'll miss her tonight. Also for Leanne, for Kaylee's mother, she's been praying for a true companion. So if you guys want to adopt that prayer request, that would be awesome. For my friend Kay and her daughter Grace for reunification. There's a lot of other things going on there, but Kay, if you're watching, you know I'm praying for you, and other people can adopt this prayer request for her as well. Rolando, a prayer request came in from him a couple weeks ago. I'm not sure. Rolando, if you're there, maybe you could give an update of what's going on. You said you had a new job opportunity we've been praying for. And so you could let us know if you got the job, if you didn't, if you're still working on it. That would be great to have an update. Also, Tammy, Sister Tammy George, continuing to pray for your health issues, sister. And she's been always so faithful, moderating for Zen, moderating for us, and a few other YouTube channels as well, from what I understand. And we just want to continue to lift her up in prayer so that her health will improve drastically and she can be 100%. All right, next prayer requests. Brianna Chavez' cousin, prayers for her cousin who has been diagnosed with cancer. Seems like that is becoming a very common diagnosis, especially with everything that happened with the hokey pokey and those connections, as well as what's in our food. You guys know, I'm sure that most of the people watching this show have a pretty good idea that the elite do not want us to live very long. So, but continued prayers for anyone who's been diagnosed with cancer. Tina, for our friend Tina in Wisconsin, that she would have her eyesight restored. She has just undergone some crazy things this past year and losing her vision, and she's close to, I think she's younger than I am. She had full eyesight, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, she didn't even take the hokey pokey or anything, and she's had a lot of issues with her eyes. So if you could adopt that prayer request, it'd be great. Sundown, she's part of our fellowship here. She requested prayers for healing from diabetes, and we'll definitely continue to keep you in prayer, Sundown. That's definitely a rough thing to go through. For Robert, he sent in a prayer request on Zen's show for his health and for salvation. And for Faye, she's part of our in-person fellowship here in Hawaii. She had a horrible accident in a shopping market, I believe it was, where she slipped and fell, and she just never had health issues before this, and now she's got all kinds of spinal things going on. So prayers for full healing for Faye. And then we have praise reports. Actually, Kaylee, is there anything you wanted to add to that? Anyone send anything in prayer requests, you guys, that you've seen come through the chat to add in? Okay, if anything comes in, I'm always checking my phone too. If Tammy might be texting me something as well. If you have prayer requests, please put those in there. We can even present those next week as well. We do have a bunch of praise reports. These are so cool. Isaac and Kaylee having progress in their marriage. And right along with those lines, we are starting our in-person class tonight called Love and Respect. It's a class, Noble's put this in here, at the Amasu Academy. That's at our friend's farm, which is about 5 minutes away from where we're at right now. And so immediately following this teaching, I will be headed over there with Isaac and Kaylee, and we'll be conducting our first class. We're expecting maybe about 10 people to come in person there to help heal marriage, help with relationships. It can even be for singles that are praying for a godly marriage partner, or for singles that may be going through some issues in marriage and maybe separated. It's for everybody. It really helps you to learn about yourself as well as how you respond to the opposite sex. Also, Noble, continued prayers for him. But praise report, his health is getting better. We went to one of his doctor's appointments this past week just as a checkup for his blood. He did some blood work, and it seems like his health is getting better. So just praise God for that. Thank you guys for praying for him. He had some very painful months there with his knees happening. And then a praise report from Christy Frost as well for her other dog, Bailey. Bailey's eyes are actually getting a little better, she said. So thank you guys so much for praying for Bailey. That's awesome. And great praise report from Penny. She again reiterated during Digital Readers Club that her husband, Ken, is now fully healed from his wrist injury. So great praise report there. And Clark, again, we thank and praise the Most High that Clark's sister's been fully healed from cancer. That's awesome and amazing. Got a great report from Zen that he's sleeping much better. He sounds so much better. He's not congested like he was a few weeks ago. Myself also Thank you for praying for me. I am not congested anymore. Praise God. And also, Donna Smith's husband is still healing from the condition that he had. I think just started his healing a couple months ago. And so praise the Most High for all that. So if you have any praise reports, we'd love to hear about them as well. I'm going to go into the teaching here. So I'm going to open this up.
If you could
Move my entire chair.
Yeah, just a little bit, so that because your hair is kind of getting.
Oh, in the way of the screen.
Yeah,
Okay, okay. Big hair day here. Okay, okay. All right. So the title of my teaching today is called "After the Garden of Eden," and I have a bunch of slides. I don't know if any of you were watching the show that Zen did this past week with Tim Schwab. Tim he runs a YouTube channel called The God Culture. If you haven't subscribed to that already, please do so. He's got some amazing information to share. And ironically, I heard about the God Culture YouTube channel maybe 5 or 6 years ago from another pretty popular channel that was trash talking them. So immediately I was like, wait a minute, because they were saying, oh yeah, the God Culture, they're so off and they don't have research. And when it's totally the opposite, like Tim backs his research up very well. It's very similar to Zen. So I thought it was a great match that the two of them are doing monthly shows now. And Tim has some awesome research to present. Zen, of course, unparalleled, amazing research as well. And so if you haven't tuned into that, please do so. So I was kind of prompted to put together this lesson kind of quickly even after the show that Tim and Zen did this past Thursday. And Zen was asking Tim if he wanted to do a book giveaway. And so Tim said, sure, I have a great question, just wait until after the break. So I think it was sometime in the last part of the show. Tim asked the question, and I want to see how many people know the answer now if you were watching that show or if you've been watching the God Culture videos. Even Isaac and Kaylee, see if you know the answer to Tim's question, because I thought other people might have gotten it because I thought it was kind of like common knowledge, especially if you've done research or if you've watched any of the God Culture videos. I even kind of present it in some of my videos that we have up here on our channel, my Where is the Land of Gold type of videos that kind of leads people into the God Culture research and to just re-examining all of the history that's been lost. So Tim asked, you guys ready? What was the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? And nobody knew it except for me. And it was a book giveaway, so I was so excited I got the book. Actually, Noble was more excited than me because it was one of their amazing, I don't have it with me today, but they have amazing book of First Enoch that I bought immediately after they published it because it's full color, it's hardback, and it's got amazing illustrations in it. And it's a little pricey. It's on Amazon. If you look up the God Culture and look up First Enoch, that book, and look at the hardcover, I think it's about $65 or $70 because it costs a lot to print books that are full color like that. But that was the book they gave away, and we only have one, and Noble and I are always fighting over it. So Noble was extremely excited that I won the book for him. So Tim I emailed him and let him know it was me that won, and so Tim was pretty happy to help us out there. We buy quite a few of their books, as well as from Sacred Word Publishing, but I really appreciate their graphics and the maps and things that they have in the books from the God Culture. And they've put out a huge amount of books just in the past 3 years. I think Tim said they published like 20 books in the past 3 years, so in both English and Tagalog. But anyway, did anyone know the name of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Isaac or Kaylee?
I know what the fruit looks like.
Oh, you don't know the name?
I don't know the name.
Kaylee, you know the name?
No.
It's native to the Philippines.
What is it?
And they also grow it on the Big Island, so I thought you might know.
What?
It's the lanzones.
Lanzones.
Yeah, you can look that up. I'm going to have some pictures of that too. But that's what they narrowed it down to based on the description of what the tree of knowledge of good and evil looks like according to Enoch. It kind of looks like lychee, but it's yellowish. And Enoch said that this particular fruit resembled the fruit of the vine, but it's on a tree. I have some pictures I'm going to put up, Kaylee. But this is an example of what it looks like. It does look like grapes, kind of, doesn't it? like large grapes.
It actually looks like dragon eyes longan.
Yes, it looks like longan. But
Yeah.
have you ever tasted lanzones?
No.
It tastes like sweet grapefruit.
Oh.
And it's it's so delicious. We had it in the Philippines when we were there.
Oh.
So I'm gonna go into that. I'm gonna go into that a little bit more, and I do have some more pictures of it on here too, so for everyone watching. But I'm gonna use these particular scriptures tonight. So if you have your Bibles, you can turn to Genesis chapter 2.
Tammy said, "Sex, choose sex." That's the fruit.
Well, that was a part of. First of all, they ate the fruit, and then the fruit of the womb came afterwards. Not the fruit of the loom. Fruit of the womb came afterwards. Okay.
Spin on words there.
Yeah,
Huh?
you can see why they called that brand that. Okay, but anyway, also I'll be reading from the first book of Adam and Eve, and also from the book of Jubilees. And so Kaylee's going to help me read some of those second hour. But I'm going to present a few things first, just so you guys can see why it's the lanzones. I mean, we're taught in other books and other readings that, I guess the general consensus in churchianity is that it's an apple, which makes no sense whatsoever when you read the extra biblicals and when you reread like what area the Garden of Eden was actually in. It had to be a tropical type of fruit, which is not really an apple. Although we do have mountain apples, but it has to be in like a colder part of the island where they grow. But yeah, I'm going to give kind of a rundown of why it's the lanzones. For those of you that never heard of that fruit before, it's really delicious and it only grows in certain areas of the world. So, first of all, this depiction is actually from Tim Schwab from the God Culture. If you watch their videos, or if you've watched my videos I've done on Where is the Land of Gold, you know that the Eden River system is not only in the Middle East. If the Most High created it to water the entire earth, it cannot be just in the Middle East. So while you're looking at this map, imagine what it was like, the conditions before the flood. There was no oceans, okay? It was just land, and then there's rivers mentioned, and then there's fountains or there's lakes mentioned, but not oceans. So you have to try to picture what Earth looked like before the flood. And there's quite a bit of evidence that's been coming up from explorers where they find these cities deep beneath the ocean, these huge megalith type of structures like around Japan or in the Bahamas. Even here in Hawaii, there's a ton of evidence that there were cities that's under the ocean right now. How did they get there? Did people live underwater? No, this is before the flood, before there were any oceans. And so the river system from Eden can exactly be traced according to the deep underwater ocean trenches like you see on this particular map. And so the names of the rivers also, they're Tigris and Euphrates are additions. Those are not original Hebrew. The original Hebrew names are the Gihon, the Hiddekel, the Pishon, and the Parat. And scholars like to say, oh, well, Parat means Euphrates. Well, Euphrates, okay, we know Euphrates is drying up right now. I think it might actually be dry. But Euphrates was an after the flood river. There's like mud in it. It's something that you would not, there might have been something there before the flood, but it wasn't a river that would water the entire earth, like the location of it today.
What is dried up?
Euphrates.
Isn't that part of the
Prophecy.
Oh my.
Yeah, the angels that are imprisoned under the Euphrates will be released after it's dried up. And I'm trying to think of the scripture. If any of you guys know the scripture about the Euphrates drying up.
Angkula, Sabas.
Yeah, anybody who knows, I think it's in Revelation, or it could either be Daniel or Revelation, where it talks about the great river or the Euphrates drying up as part of something will happen around the time of the tribulation. So there's also been, someone sent me some pictures about the Mississippi drying up as well, which is kind of ironic. But I think that's also a result of the sun getting hotter and just drying out everything. And the lack of water, as it is in prophecy, that the firmament would become like a brass, like a beaming hot thing that's going to afflict those who have the mark. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that that's kind of my interpretation of it. So we're going to be looking at some crazy weather changes coming up. I mean, we're already experiencing a little of that, where summer is just way longer than it used to be, way hotter. The sun seems way harder than it used to be also. Yes, Kaylee.
Okay, so here's the verse, I think.
Oh, you did. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Kaylee. Okay, great researcher. Revelation chapter 16, verse 12. The sixth angel poured his bowl on the great Euphrates River. its water was dried up to prepare the way for the kings from the east. Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, so that's the Euphrates River that they're talking about that's in the Middle East, because in order to pass over that, it would have to be dry. So the kings from the east that are going to be attacking, there's going to be a huge battle going on as described in prophecy during the end times, and so that's one of the things to look for. So it's unreal that has happened already, or it's in the process of happening right now. Okay, so back to this map. Thank you, Kaylee, again. You can see on this map, they have the Garden of Eden. Did you notice this? This sign, it's a little bit blurry, I'm sorry about this, but this says right here, Garden of Eden, and there's an arrow pointing right here. It's in the Philippines, and we're going to kind of document that today a little bit too. But back to the rivers. So the Pishon River, some people say Pison. I'm going to read about these rivers in Genesis chapter 2 right now. If you'd like to turn to Genesis chapter 2, verse 10. A river flows out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it divides and becomes 4 branches. The name of that first is Pishon. It is the one that flows around the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold, and the gold of that land is good. Bdellium, that's pearl, and the onyx stone are there. The name of the second river is Gihon. It is the one that flows around the whole land of Cush. And you can see where they have depicted the Gihon River is this pink line right here. The land of Cush, it was the former name for Africa. So we're looking for a river that encompasses an entire land that's today, because the book of Genesis was written, parts of it were written post-flood, but it was also given as vision as to what the land would look like to both Adam, Enoch. You can kind of see that if you read the book of First Enoch. And then you look over here, the Pishon River, this is like the Mariana Trench. It goes right by Japan, it goes around the entire trench goes around this land that in Genesis is called Havilah. Today we call it Philippines. It cannot be anywhere else. This is the land of gold. If you want to go and look on our channel and watch my videos called Where is the Land of Gold, I map this out really, really clearly. Also, you can go to the God Culture and look for their videos as well, that they know how to map this out perfectly. So there's the Gihon. Okay, I'm going to continue reading here. The name of the third river is Tigris, which is supposed to be Hiddekel in Hebrew. Tigris is an insert. And it flows east of Assyria. So look at this. Here's the Hiddekel. It's flowing east of Assyria. Assyria is right over here, so this is to the east. And the Hiddekel, these are according to the trenches that are underneath the ocean. So it's kind of in a strange shape. But Daniel also, in his book, he talks about looking over the Hiddekel River when he is over here at the base of Saudi Arabia. And so he could not be looking over the Tigris River, because the actual Tigris River today is up here and kind of landlocked in the middle here, and it comes out in the Persian Gulf along with the Euphrates. But Daniel was down here on this point, and he said he's looking over the Hiddekel. So he knew where this ancient river system was located. And then the last one, the fourth river is the Euphrates, but that's also in Hebrew the Parat. And the Parat, let's see, where did that go? The Parat actually goes down the coastline right here on the side of North America. I'm not sure where their name Parat is supposed to be there, but it looks like this depiction only captured the first 3. This in the God Culture, they'll have the Parat right there, and they'll have a line that goes down the west coast of the Americas, basically down here, South America, and then you can kind of see the bottom here. It connects with the Eden River system, and they originate in the land of Eden, which we call the North Pole. This is the highest elevation without any water on Earth. This is the highest elevation here for the underwater river system to naturally just flow kind of downhill under in the trenches under the ocean. And you can kind of see, like when we go on cruises, it seems like when we're going over where these trenches and where these river systems are, there's a lot of turbulence. And you can tell there's something going on underneath the ocean that has to do with another body of water. And they've even found like underwater, under ocean lakes, and that would make total sense because of all this river system. Then it kind of like meanders around, connects to the Hiddekel, it comes over here, the Pishon kind of connects over here to the Parat, which goes along this coastline right here. And then the Pishon, of course, encompasses the entire land of Havilah. And now it's getting warm in here, so I'm going to take off my fur jacket. Okay, so you can go ahead if you want to study this map. You can press pause if you're watching this after our live stream. You can also find this map on some of my videos I've done here on our channel, Where's the Land of Gold. I'm going to show you now where Bible scholars say that these rivers are at, and it does not match this description in Genesis 2 whatsoever. Like, I never understood like where these rivers and how they would water the whole earth. When I used to read this chapter and just kind of brushed it off as like, okay, I guess they know what they're talking about, until I saw that map that I just showed you guys. That is the only one that makes total sense to me. But this is what they teach us in like Bible college or in Sunday school, where they have, these are the wrong locations of these rivers. And I think it's kind of funny, like they put the Pishon River here. What is this encompassing? Like, is this encompassing the entire land of what? Like, it's just this little tiny, here's the Gihon. This is supposed to go around the entire land of Cush. Like, how is that even going around anything? It's just like branched off from the water here. Okay, so here's the Euphrates. This is like the modern day Euphrates that's dried up right now, and then the Tigris kind of goes in together with it. And then of course you have Israel over here. So they're trying to say that these are like in the Caucasian mountains, that these Gihon and Pishon rivers, and to me it just makes no sense whatsoever. You can look on here too. Of course, they have their Tigris, Euphrates, and they're trying to say that this little city is the whole land of Cush, and that's why it goes around. I mean, I used to believe this stuff. Like, this is taught in Sunday school now. Okay, so if you think that this is the Gihon River that goes around the entire land of Cush right here, as opposed to the entire continent of Africa, and then they say this is Havilah. This actually is called Havilah. But as of many names in the Bible, there's two Havilahs. There's Havilah that's of Ham. There's Havilah that is of Shem. Havilah's brothers, it's ironic, their names were Ophir and Sheba, and another one named Jobab. And then there's Havilah, I think all came from this patriarch named Joktan, the brother of Peleg. So you can look in Genesis 10, you can see all the offspring of Shem, you can see all those guys, and why there's also... from the land of Cush, these are the offspring of Cush, these names here. So like Havilah, they even have an Ophir that's over there. But if you look at the maps, none of it matches like the geography that we see. So that's why it's not surrounded by the Pishon River, okay? So that's what we're looking here. It's not known for the best gold on earth, this area of the world and this area of the world. And some people say, oh, but look at, there's Eden. It's called Eden over here by where the Tigris and Euphrates, by Babylon. Well, there's like over 100 locations on earth called Eden. They just like named it that because, just like there's so many different towns called even like Reedsburg or other names in the mainland that's totally copied different places on the world. So just because, this Bible scholar even said, look, this could be the Garden of Eden because it's right here. It's right next to Havilah, and I'm just like, wait a minute, this is like the Persian Gulf, and this is like where Babylon and Nimrod's kingdom was located. I don't think the Garden of Eden would be there. But anyway, also known in Genesis 2, it specifically said it's known for its pearl. Now, do you think this area of the world by where Babylon or Israel is known for having one of the largest pearls on earth? You can even look that up. What country has the largest pearls on earth? They just found one that was like 72 pounds in the Philippines about 10 years ago. Also, it's not in the Far East. They'll say, oh no, this is the Middle East. This is the middle of the East. But it's in the Far East, east of Eden, the Far East. And the Eden River source starts at the highest elevation. This is what I was saying before. Pre-flood in the north. It flows around the whole earth, not just in the Middle East, not just here. And the garden was planted to the east of the land of Eden. Okay, so those are some other things. If you want to study some of that a little bit further, you can look at my other videos up here on this channel called Where is the Land of Gold? I think I have parts 1, 2, and 3 up there. Okay, so here we get to this forbidden fruit. This is a picture that Kaylee might have shown earlier also. Was it something like this?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a lanzones tree. Now, if you're looking for a fruit tree that has leaves like the carob tree that's as described in 1 Enoch, and that the fruit looks like the cluster of the vine, but it's on a tree, this one fits the depiction pretty well, I think. also because it's native to the land that I'm going to prove where the Garden of Eden is. You can also look at my other videos to get some more in-depth on that. But this is a lanzones tree, so when I answered the question from Tim, when he said, what is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? This also used to be a poisonous fruit tree up until a couple hundred years ago. It was outlawed from being eaten. They said this is the cursed tree. It's kind of interesting, the background even on this tree, but the curse was lifted. People can eat it now. I've eaten quite a few of these and not gotten sick, and they're so delicious though. They're so good. Like I was telling Kaylee earlier, it tastes like a sweet grapefruit kind of flavor, and they're very juicy. They're kind of like lychee. If anybody's tried lychee, they're red. They grow those here in Hawaii. Lanzones is very similar, but the best lanzones on earth, we'll get to that and see where those are grown. Okay, we talked a little bit about this here too in Digital Readers Club, about the Nakash, about the dragon. A lot of people depict this in artist renditions as being a snake always, but if the Most High cursed this Nakash, or cursed the serpent and said, you're going to have your feet and your legs cut off, like we read in our reading an hour ago or so, a snake already has no arms and feet or wings or anything. So it was a dragon. It was a dragon-looking creature before, like a feathered type of serpent. This is kind of an artist rendition of that. And you can see them, this is a Nakash, a dragon-like feather serpent. It flew, it had legs and feet, a beautiful, beautiful coat. And we know from our last reading about the Vestures of Light and Rod of Wonder, written by Zen Garcia. If you guys want to order that, you can get a lot more details on what happened to this particular serpent's coat when the serpent was cursed and had to slide on the ground the rest of its life.
If you want to see a good depiction of what it is and how shrewd they are with their words, you can watch The Hobbit.
There we go.
The Desolation of Smaug.
Smaug, yes, exactly. I also brought to mind, talking about Hollywood movies, one of the movies that we like to kind of watch over and over just because the storyline is done so well, and there's like parts 1, 2, and 3 now or something. If any of you have watched How to Train Your Dragon, it's supposedly a children's movie, but I think, if it's going to be as it was in the days of Noah, that they're going to be bringing these back. Because it is in prophecy that women will be breastfeeding serpents during the tribulation. In order to do that, they're going to have to bring a serpent back that looks similar to this. And so I guess we'll just kind of wait for that to happen. That's in the Apocalypse of Elijah. Also in the book of, I think it's the Greek Apocalypse of Baruch, it mentions that about the women.
But that also might be a bloodline rather than...
Could be. It could be different. I mean, Sibylline Oracles also, it's in there. But it could be part of their bloodline. The way I think of it is like Sweet Tooth. Remember? Yeah, that movie series. The curse was let out, and then all the kids after that were being born like animals. That's true. They all didn't have, the same like fathers and mothers.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
That is definitely predictive programming too, right? Sweet Tooth, he's talking about, it's a series that's on Netflix. I could only make it through like the first 1 or 2 shows, and then it just got too much for me. I couldn't watch it. But if you're interested in watching, Isaac, I think you watched the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Is it there like a couple seasons of that, or just one season?
There's 2 seasons right now. I'm currently waiting on the 3rd one.
Weird.
We are. Oh, Kaylee watched it too. You watched it. You watched the whole thing. Sweet Tooth. Yeah, it's a lot of predictive programming, kind of like and I could kind of see how that works with like the emojis and stuff that they're bringing, where you can make your child look like an animal or something. Put ears, put the nose, all that stuff. I think it's cute, but I think that is also preparing us for what's coming as far as different bloodlines. That's a good point, Isaac. Okay, so this is just kind of leading up to what happened, and so I can go into my After the Garden little lesson here. So just to kind of review, Adam and Eve hiding, they're clothed with fig leaves, they're hiding the private areas that were defiled, that the Nakash basically took advantage of these 2 innocent people that were like children, and they weren't sure what to do after that except for hide. And then the judgment, of course, was by the Most High. They had to exit the garden. And it was a very horrible and sad day for that. We read kind of a little bit of that in Legends of the Jews. And here's another picture. And of course, what would it be guarded by after that? So nobody could re-enter the garden. It was human. or that was alive, I guess, except for Enoch. A flaming sword and cherubim. This is a little bit depiction of that. I'm not sure why it's getting cut off at the top here. But anyway, all right, so next one. And this, now, at first I thought, oh, this is a good one of the Garden of Eden, but I think this could also be the land of Adam's creation, where they moved, and that's what I'm going to focus on in this lesson. Where did they go? And where on earth did Adam and Eve live initially, especially after they exited the garden? It had to be somewhere kind of near the garden, and this definitely is a good depiction of where they might have lived, or actually they had to have lived. There's a lot of evidence pointing up to this point here. But this looks a lot like the Philippines today. There's just lush waterfalls all over the place. And I'm going to give you a little visual here so you can see what I'm talking about. This is, oh, wrong one here. Okay, there. So when I first saw what the Philippines looked like, I mean, you can kind of see it looks like the outline of a skull. It kind of looks like a person. And there's an arm reaching out here. This would be like the pelvis bone. This would be like the spine coming down, the eye, the chin. I mean, to me, it just looks like this would be something special to the Most High to have it, even after the flood, have this type of a shape. You can even see around it, there's like these deep, it even says the Philippine Trench. Look, it goes all the way around this entire land of Havilah as described in Genesis chapter 2. And it's known as, for centuries, as the land of gold, the best gold on earth. I think there's only one country right now, and that's because they're not heavily mining in the Philippines, but South Africa has finally succeeded the Philippines as far as how much gold that they're finding there. But this has always historically been known as the land of gold. And so I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Now, exactly where the Garden of Eden would have been located, it's not, of course, it's not accessible to anyone today. But there's really good evidence that it would have been located here, where it says Sulusi. It's underneath the earth, or there's other writings that say it is in the third heaven, so possibly directly over this area or under this area. This is also in the book of Jubilees. It talks about this is where Enoch, and in the book of Enoch, where he's writing down all the works of men, and it's guarded by that cherubim with the sword. So ironically too, this area of the Philippines has the most biodiverse marine life on earth. Like I think there's 80 species of marine life that are found here and nowhere else. So that would make sense to me if this is the land of creation, that they would have something like that just focused, concentrated on right there. Or maybe the fish just stayed there, like during the flood, it's underwater, they stayed there. Then after the flood, they didn't go anywhere else, they just stayed there. So to me, that's pretty good evidence right there. Now, after they exited the garden, where would Adam and Eve have gone? Well, it says that they went east of the garden. I'm going to do a reading there where you see that, but I wanted to show you this here too. So through the islands, just imagine there's no water here when Adam and Eve were living there. So these are not islands, these are mountaintops when Adam and Eve lived in this area. And so if the garden's here and they exited to the east, it would have gone through this valley. This is like a valley here, and there's very good evidence that this little island, Come Again Island, is...
Come again?
Yeah, Come Again.
Thank you, come again.
And it's hard, it's kind of blurry here, but there's a city on here called Mamajao. It's got like really cool little names. And also, guess what tree is most prominent and has the best fruit on this island? Lanzones. So when we go Philippines, I want to go there.
Okay.
Not just for the lanzones, but for this other thing too.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Also too, on ancient maps, not just on regular maps, but look at this. So this is an ancient map. Where is the name for it here? Let me see. Oh, I'm going to go back here. I had it on here. There. Turin World Map, 1160 BC. You can see that down here. You can look that up for yourself. Now, these maps are a little bit deceiving at first because it looks like they're all backwards and everything. Like, why is Asia up here at the top and Africa here and Europe over here? And these are in different languages too. I mean, you can make out Australia right there. That was one of the few words I could read on this map because it's in a different language, of course. But look over here. They've got Adam, Eve, and the serpent right there. All right, this is Asia. So turned around and sideways, you can kind of actually move this clockwise about like this. So Asia is at the east. This right here, look at the top. So there's water up here, and Adam he's staring at this little blob right here in the water. These are meant to be like two islands that are in the water. And you can even see, like, they're covering their shame, the serpent's involved. And this is on a map from 1160 BC that was found in Egypt. So I thought that was interesting, and I have an even better depiction of it here. I kind of zoomed in a little bit more. Now these two words here, this is infula. It looks like in another language, and I can't even make out this one. But I looked up this word here, and in Greek, it's argyre. Now there's so many different names for what we call the Philippines today, but this was one of them. Argyre was the land of silver, and so if you look at this map again, this island right here, Mindanao, is known for having a ton of silver. This is what the main thing that was mined right here. And this is the land formerly known as Argyre. That was during the days of the Magellan discoveries. And then this is Greek for Ophir. This is Christ. This is another island. And so Christ was kind of like a more modern, after biblical times, name for Ophir. And so look at Adam. He's looking right over there, Ophir. Like, why would he be looking there and just like bypassing Eve and the serpent? He's like focused on this little island right here. I will show you where Christ is, where the most gold has been found. And that is where Kaylee's family is from Luzon, the island of Luzon. This was did you know that? This is formerly known as Christ in Greek. So this is where the most gold has been found to date, and this is where the most silver has been found down here. Ooh. That's a little geography lesson. I just thought you guys might enjoy that. I'm not sure what's going on with these angels sitting on these balloon-looking things in the corners, but whoever drew the map must have thought that was an interesting thing to add in there. Now let me show you some pictures of Camiguin Island. Look at how beautiful. This is the Philippines. This is, it's called, in this depiction, it says the island born of fire. This is Camiguin Island. There's some active volcanoes on this island, and I love this. There's this little sandbar that you can take a boat out to go for the day, and they barbecue and they do some fun things. It's called White Island, right off the coast of Camiguin Island. And this mountain right here is called Mount Hibuk Hibuk. Now in Tagalog, you look that up, and even in Hebrew, that means sorry, sorry in English. So to me, this would be a pretty good destination for Adam to go to when he's apologizing to the Most High for what he did in the garden. As the head, he took the blame, even though he tried to put it off on his wife. It was his choice also to eat the fruit. She didn't force him to. So this is where Adam would have made the first sacrifice. And it's mapped very well. If you go look at the God culture, they go way in depth, more than I do, for over an hour, as to why this would be a good location for Adam to make smoke sacrifices of herbs and spices for his sanctification. And I'm going to read from the book of Jubilees, chapter 3, so you can hear this account firsthand. Righty. And then after I read this, we're going to take a short break before I continue on. So this is from the book of Jubilees, chapter 3, verse 17 to 35, so you can hear exactly what happened. I'm going to go in a little back a little bit so you can kind of just relate in order chronologically. And Adam tilled the garden and was naked and knew it not and was not ashamed, and he protected the garden from the birds and beasts and cattle, and gathered its fruit and ate, and put aside the residue for himself and for his wife, and put aside that which was being kept. After the completion of 7 years, when he completed there 7 years exactly, in the 2nd month, on the 17th day of the month, the serpent came and approached the woman. And the serpent said to the woman, "Has God commanded you, saying, 'You shall not eat of every tree of the garden'?" And she said to it, "Of all the fruit of the trees of the garden, God has said unto us, 'Eat.' But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God said to us, 'You shall not eat thereof, neither shall you touch it, lest you die.' And the serpent said to the woman, 'You shall not surely die, for God does know that on the day you shall eat, your eyes will be opened, and you will be as gods, and you will know good and evil.' And the woman saw the tree, that it was agreeable and pleasant to the eye, and that its fruit was good for food, and she took thereof and ate. And when she had first covered her shame with fig leaves, she gave thereof to Adam, and he ate, and his eyes were opened, and he saw that he was naked. And he took fig leaves and sewed them together and made an apron for himself and covered his shame. And God cursed the serpent and was wroth with it forever. And he was wroth with the woman, because she hearkened to the voice of the serpent, and did eat. And he said unto her, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your pain. In sorrow you will bring forth children, and your return shall be to your husband, and he will rule over you. And to Adam also he said, because you have hearkened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree which I commanded you that you should not eat of, cursed be the ground for your sake. Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to you, and you shall eat your bread in the sweat of your face, till you return to the earth from whence you were taken. For earth you are, and unto earth shall you return. And he made for them coats of skin, and clothed them, and sent them forth from the Garden of Eden. And on that day on which Adam went forth from the garden, he offered as a sweet savor an offering, incense, galbanum, and stocte, and spices in the morning, with the rising of the sun, from the day when he covered his shame. And on that day was closed the mouth of all the beasts and cattle and birds and whatever walks, whatever moves, so they could no longer speak. For they had all spoken with one another with one lip and one tongue. And he sent out of the Garden of Eden all flesh that was in the Garden of Eden, and all flesh was scattered according to its kinds, according to its types, unto the place which had been created for them. And to Adam alone did he give the wherewithal to cover his shame of all the beasts and cattle. On this account it is prescribed on the heavenly tablets as touching all those who knew the judgment of the law, that they should cover their shame, and should not uncover themselves as the Gentiles uncover themselves. And on the new moon of the 4th month, Adam and his wife went forth from the Garden of Eden, and they dwelt in the land of Elda, in the land of their creation. Does that sound Filipino to you, Kaylee? Elda.
Elda?
Sounds kind of like
Yeah,
a
just,
Tagalog name or
it
something.
sounds very Filipino.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
And Adam called the name of his wife Havah. They had no son till the first Jubilee. After this he knew her. So this is Adam and Eve together, not Eve and the serpent. And he tilled the land as he had been instructed in the Garden of Eden. All right, so that's the reading. Before the break, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have some more reading to back all this up. See you guys in a bit. Recording live from Hawaii with the George Ohana. After reading through the Bible so many times in my life, it always seemed that there were some pieces missing, such as Genesis 6, the giants. There's mention of giants in the Old Testament, but not as much detail as I would have liked. In fact, there seemed to be more truth in the media and in movies as far as the actual height and stature of these giants. But I always was hoping that there would be other texts available so that I could learn and read more as to exactly who these giants were and how they related to what's going on in the world today. Hebrew Hawaiian Family Ministry is one that we have prayed over and that we are so excited to share these nuggets of truth that we get from reading the Bible, as well as extra biblicals, as well as ancient texts that have been removed over the years. And learning the detail and the backstories of biblical truths and biblical stories really helps them to come alive. We would love to have you join us and be a part of our ministry as we review the ancient languages of Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek, and as we read through the additional material now available to us in English that gives such a deeper meaning to biblical accounts such as the golden calf, the 10 Commandments, and the giants, and how they still play a role in our lives today. The media loves to put these heroes, these famous ones of old, in the spotlight, and that's how it's always been. But as a truth-seeking community, it is so important to utilize the research of others who are on the same path as we are, the path to learning the whole truth about the ancient deities, about the modern idols, and how they're related, how they are the same entities. These accounts of the patriarchs, such as Job or Iyov, help us to increase our own personal faith in the Most High. By learning the details of what Iyov endured, it can help us as we're going through our own trials. By learning exactly what happened in the garden with Adam and Havah and the serpent, can help us to see the relationship to what we're going through today. And what was the role of the serpent in all this? There's so much symbology involving serpents through so many different cultures. It's important to read books outside the Bible in order for us to understand it with a deeper meaning and use our history that has been stolen from us and is now being revealed as knowledge increases in the last days. Did you ever wonder how the Most High called Abraham and hear of his encounter with Nimrod and the fiery furnace? These and other stories are readily available to all of us, and we look forward to sharing with you and to hearing your ideas and your research about these ancient books. We can discover how each apostle wrote books of their own that should have been included and that were included in the early church manuscripts. We all study together, and we all have something to bring to the table as far as our own individual research. So please join us on Saturday evenings for Hebrew class and backstory time on both this YouTube channel, Hebrew Hawaiian, and on Discord with Sacred Word Publishing. We look forward to studying and learning together with you as an online ecclesia, our extended ohana, as we support each other in a world where truth is very hard to find. Blessings to all of you, and Shaloha. Hello, welcome back, and Shaloha. We have beautiful
Shaloha.
Kaylee here. She's going to help me read today. For those of you that missed the first hour, I was doing a little bit of an introduction to what we're reading today, the events that preceded Adam and Eve getting kicked out of the garden. There's a little bit more in the text that I'm going to have Kaylee read to you. First of all, I wanted to go over what we see here on the screen. We talked about a little bit before break that the Mount of the East, also known as Mount Safar, in the Philippines is called Mount Hibuk Hibuk, which means sorry, sorry in their language. And so I thought that's really ironic, and that would be like a good location where Adam could have made the first sacrifice to the Most High that we just read about in the book of Jubilees. And also in this particular area, there's a place called Katarman. I'll show you on some maps that are coming up here. And that's where the oldest preserved bones on earth have been found, which I think is so ironic because we read in the Legends of the Jews in Digital Readers Club how Seth was given exact instructions on how to preserve the bones of his ancestors, since he was the first son of Adam and Eve that didn't pass away like Abel. And so, of course, he was given all of these instructions as to how to bury his parents. And so I just think it's really ironic that this exact location, I wonder whose bones those are, in other words, that were preserved all this time in a place called Katarman. And then also there's many caves that are located in this area. This is the cave where those particular bones were found. It's this huge, beautiful cave. There's also an extra biblical book called The Cave of Treasures that some of you might be aware of, that kind of gives a description of what had happened with Adam and Eve when they were evicted from the garden and God had them live in this cave. The reading Kaylee's going to do also describes that a little bit. Just to show you a little bit more what this area looks like. Look how beautiful this is. I can't wait to go back there. We were staying in an island right across from this island in Bohol, and you could see this right across the ocean. I was like, oh my goodness, I want to go see what this island looks like because it's so beautiful from far away. Everything there is gorgeous. I mean, it looks like Hawaii, but before all the tourism and the Masons took over, basically. It's a beautiful country, and there's over 7,000 islands, and they all have something amazing about them. This is a little bit of a map of Camiguin Island. You can see here in the middle is Hibuk Hibuk volcano. That's that mount at the east that I showed some pictures of. They have hot springs there. This is Katarman right here where those caves are located. They have hot springs and cold springs on this island. And remember, before the flood, this was the peak of a mountain. This is not considered an island because there was no ocean before the flood. So there's waterfalls, there's a bunch of different volcanoes. I want to go soak in these hot springs. I've seen some amazing pictures of these places. There's some cool names. Let's see what else there is there. Here's another picture, an aerial view. So you can see this is Camiguin Island where Mount Hibuk Hibuk is located kind of in the center there. And it's not a very large island, but it looks so gorgeous. There's another map right here where you can see Mount Hibuk Hibuk very clearly kind of in the center there. There's a shipping port right here. There's Katarman again. There's some pools, waterfalls, mineral water spring. It's just gorgeous. Oh, and off the coast too, there's evidence that there was land here before the oceans. There's a cemetery underwater, like complete with crosses and stones and everything.
What
right
the
underneath.
heck?
You can even look that up. You can look up Sunken Cemetery, Camiguin Island, and you will see all the pictures. And you could go diving in there too to go explore. It's kind of cool. Kaylee wants to do it now.
Yeah, I want to.
Okay,
look it up
so
now.
look up the Sunken Cemetery of Camiguin Island. Also too, in the pictures that we saw, that little white island, that sandbar, it's right here. Isn't that cool? It's just like sand, and you can take boats out there. They have tours to go over there. Here's some of the waterfalls that are on this island. I mean, it reminds me of Hawaii, but it's so much more natural and doesn't have all the junk going on in the soil like we did here. This is a sunset off of Camiguin Island. Look at how beautiful, and they have their boats and everything there. Here's another picture too, so you can kind of get an idea. This is a tiny little island right here is Camiguin Island. This would have been where the Garden of Eden location would have been, and Adam, before the ocean, of course, would have just walked through this valley. Found Mount Hibuk Hibuk, made his sacrifice there. Manila's all the way up here. This is the densely populated area right there. But if you go to the outer islands away from Manila, or even to the north area where Kaylee's family's from is up here, right? And it's just so beautiful. And Tim and Anna, too, from the God culture, this little bay right here, it's known as the surfing capital of the North Island of the Philippines, where they live in La Union, which is kind of by San Fernando. It's this little area right there. But also, I mean, you can see how many there are there. It's just tons. And it's got the most beautiful, voted for the past 10 years, the most beautiful spot on earth is here. And this is Palawan. And there's an island up here called Coron. And they have this gorgeous area that you can look that up too. Coron, it's kind of like Corona, but Coron means crown, and you can look up the most beautiful vacation spot on earth, so that's there. This is another view. This is Mount Hibuk Hibuk again. There's that white sand island, or white island, and Mount Hibuk Hibuk is kind of there in the background, and Camiguin is over there. Here's another little map, Noble stuck in here too, so you can see this area. They're sectioned off into different, they call it barangays, different kind of like parts of the province. Katarman Barangay, Mabajao, Mahinog, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Sagay, and do you know how to say that? I don't know how to say that.
Guin Siliban.
Thank you. See, she even get the accent. Good. Okay. And so you can just kind of see there's all kinds of cool things to do. There's that white island up there. It's just that little sandbar. Just looks like a fun place to visit. There's an airport, but between all those islands, they have ferries that's much cheaper than taking flights, and it's pretty quick. You can get in between islands and sightsee at the same time. Ironically, they have the Lanzones Festival here on Camiguin Island. Considered as the island's celebration for the abundance of lanzones and bountiful harvest, Lanzones Festival reigns as one of the most watched festivals in the Philippines. It is celebrated mainly in Mambajao, Camiguin, every third week of October for about 4 days. See, this would be better than the Cherry Blossom Festival.
Oh,
You get to
yeah.
eat it. Thanking the divine for the plentiful, delicious, sweet lanzones growing in the trees in the whole island. This is instead of lanzones because the best and sweetest of this fruit are found in the municipality of Mambajao. Since lanzones is abundant in the island, it is a major source of livelihood for the people of Camiguin, probably next to tourism or the hospitality industry. Because this fruit plays a vital role in their lives, they celebrate Lanzones Festival during the annual harvest. The lanzones, sometimes referred to as buahan, is a dark yellow colored fruit about 1 to 2 inches in diameter and has a sweet white edible substance inside. So you have to peel it. There's like peel, kind of thick peel on there like lychee, and the inside fruit is just delicious. Okay, so that's a little bit more. This is the Hibok Volcano Observatory, so you can see there's actual place called Hibok there. Sorry in Tagalog or Hebrew. Some stamps that have Hibok on there. The mountains in the Philippines stamps. Another one where you can see how to go up there. There's hikes and all kinds of things. You can drive up there as well. It's a whole like little tourist destination. A little bit closer in, you can see the Hibok National Monument. So I'm going to leave this here while Kaylee's doing the reading, and you can kind of have a little bit of a visual what things could have looked like for Adam and Eve when they exited the garden. But the first couple chapters in this book that she's going to be reading from. Now, Sacred Word publishes this particular book. This is not this one I have is not from Sacred Word Publishing, and there's a whole bunch of other extra biblicals in here. But this book is called The First Book of Adam and Eve. And of course, there's a second book of Adam and Eve in there that I read from last week. But the first book of Adam and Eve gives a chronological order. It was found in Egypt. The manuscripts were and translated to English, I believe, about 100 years ago. And it has quite a few texts that back up what is written in here in English. So Kaylee will be reading the first 10 chapters. They're kind of short here in the book of Adam and Eve, and I'm going to leave this up so you kind of have a visual as to what area of the world this would have occurred in. Kaylee?
Chapter 1. The Crystal Sea. God commands Adam, expelled from Eden, to dwell in the cave of treasures. On the third day, God planted the garden in the east of the earth, on the border of the world eastward, beyond which towards the sunrising one finds nothing but water that encompasses the whole world and reaches unto the borders of heaven. And to the north of the garden there is a sea of water, clear and pure, to the taste like unto nothing else, so that through the clearness thereof one may look into the depths of the earth. And when a man washes himself in it, becomes clean of the cleanness thereof, and white of its whiteness, even if he were dark. And God created that sea of his own good pleasure, for he knew what would come of the man he should make. So that after he had left the garden, on account of his transgression, men should be born in the earth, from among whom righteous ones should die, whose souls God would raise at the last day, when they should return to their flesh, should bathe in the water of that sea, and all of them repent of their sins. But when God made Adam go out of the garden, he did not place him on the border of it northward, lest he should draw near to the sea of water, and he and Eve washed themselves in it, be cleansed from their sins, forget the transgression they had committed, and be no longer reminded of it in the thought of their punishment. Then again, as to the south or southern side of the garden, God was not pleased to let Adam dwell there, because when the wind blew from the north, it would bring him on that southern side the delicious smell of the trees of the garden. Wherefore God did not put Adam there, lest he should smell the sweet smell of those trees, forget his transgression, and find consolation for what he had done, take delight in the smell of the trees, and not be cleansed from his transgression. Again also, because God is merciful and of great pity, he governs all things in a way he alone knows. He made our father Adam dwell in the western border of the garden, because on that side of the earth is very broad. And God commanded him to dwell there in a cave in a rock, the cave of treasures below the garden. Chapter 2. Adam and Eve, what is it? How do you say it? Because it says like Adam and
Oh, Hava.
Hava, sorry.
Because, yeah, in
I'll
Hebrew.
just say Hava.
Yeah, okay.
Adam and Hava faint upon leaving the garden. God sends his word to encourage them. But when our father Adam and Hava went out of the garden, they trod the ground on their feet, not knowing they were treading. And when they came to the opening of the gate of the garden, and saw the broad earth spread before them, covered with stones large and small, and with sand, they feared and trembled, and fell on their faces from the fear that came upon them, and they were as dead. Because whereas they had hitherto been in the garden land, beautifully planted with all manner of trees, they now saw themselves in a strange land which they knew not and had never seen. And because at that time they were filled with the grace of a bright nature, they had not hearts turned towards earthly things. Therefore had God pity on them, and when he saw them fallen before the gate of the garden, he sent his word unto Father Adam and Hava, and raised them from their fallen state. Chapter 3. Concerning the promise of the great 5 days and half. God said to Adam, I have ordained on this earth days and years, and thou and thy seed shall dwell and walk in it, until the days and years are fulfilled, when I shall send the word that created thee, and against which thou hast transgressed, the word that made thee come out of the garden, and that raised thee when thou wast fallen. Yea, the word that will again save thee when the 5 days and a half are fulfilled. But when Adam heard these words from God, and all of the great 5 days and a half, he did not understand the meaning of them. For Adam was thinking that there would be but 5 days and a half for him to the end of the world. And Adam wept and prayed God to explain it to him. And God said in his mercy for Adam, who was made after his own image and similitude, explained to him that these were 5,500 years, and how one would then come and save him and his seed. But God had before that made his covenant with our father Adam in the same terms ere he came out of the garden, when he was by the tree whereof Hava took the fruit and gave it to him to eat. Inasmuch as when our father Adam came out as the garden, he passed by that tree, and saw how God had then changed the appearance of it into an other form, and how it withered. And as Adam went to it, he feared, trembled, and fell down. But God in his mercy lifted him up, and then made his covenant with him. And again, when Adam was by the gate of the garden, and saw the cherub with a sword of flashing fire in his hand, he and the cherub grew angry and frowned at him. Both Adam and Hava became afraid of him, and thought he meant to put them to death. So they fell on their faces and trembled with fear. But he had pity on them and showed them mercy, and turning from them went up to heaven and prayed unto the Lord, and said, Lord, thou didst send me to watch at gate of the garden with a sword of fire. But when thy servants Adam and Hava saw me, they fell on their faces and were as dead. O my Lord, what shall we do to thy servants? Then God had pity on them, and showed them mercy, and sent his angel to keep the garden. And the word of the Lord came unto Adam and Hava, and raised them up. And the Lord said to Adam, I told thee that at the end of 5 days and a half I will send my word and save thee. Strengthen thy heart, therefore, and abide in the cave of treasures, of which I have before spoken to thee. And when Adam heard this word from God, he was comforted with that which God had told him, for he had told him how he would save him. Chapter 4. Adam laments the changed conditions. Adam and Hava enter the cave of treasures. But Adam and Hava wept for having come out of the garden, their first abode. And indeed, when Adam looked at his flesh, that was altered, he wept bitterly, he and Hava, over what they had done. And they walked and went gently down into the cave of treasures. And as they came to it, Adam wept over himself, and said to Hava, Look at this cave, that is to be our prison in this world, and a place of punishment. What is it compared with the garden? What is its narrowness compared with the space of the other? What is this rock by the side of those groves? What is the gloom of this cavern compared with the light of the garden? What is this overhanging ledge of rock to shelter us compared with the mercy of the Lord that overshadowed us? What is the soil of this cave compared with the garden land? This earth strewed with stones, and that planted with delicious fruit trees. And Adam said to Havah, Look at thine eyes and at mine, which afore beheld angels in heaven praising, and they too without ceasing. But now we do not see as we did. Our eyes have become of flesh. They cannot see in like manner as they saw before. Adam said again to Havah, What is our body today compared to what it was in former days when we dwelt in the garden? After this, Adam did not like to enter the cave under the overhanging rock, nor would he ever have entered it. But he bowed to God's orders and said to himself, Unless I enter the cave, I shall again be a transgressor. Chapter 5, in which Havah makes a noble and emotional intercession, taking the blame on herself. Then Adam and Havah entered the cave and stood praying in their own tongue, unknown to us, but which they knew well. And as they prayed, Adam raised his eyes and saw the rock and the roof of the cave that covered him overhead, so that he could neither heaven nor God's creatures. So he wept and smote heavily upon his breast until he dropped and was dead. And Havah sat weeping, for she believed he was dead. Then she arose, spreading her hands towards God, suing him for mercy and pity, and said, O God, forgive me my sin, the sin which I committed, and remember it not against me. For I alone caused thy servant to fall from the garden into this lost estate, from light into this darkness, and from the abode of joy into this prison. O God, look upon this thy servant, thus fallen, and raise him from his death, that he may weep and repent of his transgression when he committed through me. Take not away his soul this once, but let him live, that he may stand after the measure of his repentance, and do thy will as before his death. But if thou do not raise him up, then, O God, take away my own soul, that I be like him. And leave me not in this dungeon, one and alone, for I could not stand alone in this world, but with him only. For thou, O God, didst cause a slumber to come upon him, and didst take a bone from his side, and didst restore the flesh in the place of it by thy divine power. Thou didst take me, the bone, and make me a woman, bright like him, with heart, reason, and speech, and in flesh like unto his own, and thou didst make me after the likeness of his countenance by thy mercy and power. O Lord, I and he are one, and thou, O God, art your creator. Thou art he who made us both in one day. Therefore, O God, give him life, that he may be with me in this strange land, while we dwell in it on account of our transgression. But if thou wilt not give him life, then take me, even me, like him, that we both may die the same day. And Havah wept bitterly and fell upon our father Adam from her great sorrow. Chapter 6.
Kind of sounds like Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah,
it does.
It does, right?
Yeah, it really does.
And I'm thinking Havah must have just been freaking out with that prayer. Like, I don't think that was a very calm prayer, because they're like the only two people on earth.
Well, I mean, I feel like she said
there's
that
maybe
out of
some more.
desperation too, because she saw that he was struggling, and he was just like reminiscing about how good they had it, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, where is this place? You know.
And can you imagine how he said he beat on his breast basically until he died? Can you imagine how hard he must have been hitting himself? Like, and that's the second time that he's actually died. Because remember when they exited the cave, they saw the cherubim and they both passed out and died, and the angel's like, now what are we gonna do? They're exiting and they're both dead. You know.
Yeah.
So the word of the Lord came, raised it. You know who the word of the Lord is, right? Yeshua came and raised them. He was right there, of course, raising them up. Okay, keep going. Come on, guys, you can do this. Then Adam's just like, I hate this body, and beat. And then he kills himself. And then Havah's like, what now? Oh my gosh, you know.
Yeah.
Please raise him up. I don't want to be here by myself.
Yeah.
This horrible place, this cave. But anyway, and I put the cave up on screen so people can kind of a little idea of what they could have been living in here. If this is where they decided to live, like right after the sacrifice, it might make sense that they wanted to live close to the altar that Adam had built for the Most High, because continual sacrifices. I mean, every time Adam was doing, not of animals back then, but this is of herbs and spices. And all the herbs and spices he was sacrificing, the incense, the galbanum, the stacte, they all can be traced back to actual spices and herbs that are only grown in the area in the Philippines.
Oh.
Like the incense from the pili tree. There's that's like a well-known, like they're even using that for like Gucci perfume and everything. There's like this amazing smell, and that's one of the few places it's grown is in the Philippines. So, okay, sorry, continue.
No worries. Chapter 6. God's admonition to Adam and Hava, in which he points out how and why they sinned. But God looked upon them, for they had killed themselves through great grief, but he would raise them and comfort them. He therefore sent his word unto them, that they should stand and be raised forthwith. And the Lord said unto Adam and Hava, You transgressed of your own free will, until you came out of the garden in which I had placed you. Of your own free will you have transgressed through your desire for divinity, greatness, and an exalted state, such as I have, so that I have deprived you of the bright nature in which you then were, and I made you come out of the garden to this land rough and full of trouble. If only you had not transgressed my commandment, and had kept my law, and had not eaten of the fruit of the tree near which I told you not to come, and there were fruit trees in the garden better than that one. But the wicked Hasatan, who continued not in his first estate, nor kept his faith, in whom was no good intent toward me, and who thought I had created him, though I had created him, yet set me at naught, and sought the Godhead, so that I hurled him down from heaven. He it is who made the tree appear pleasant in your eyes, until you ate of it by hearkening to him. Thus have you transgressed my commandment, and therefore have I brought upon you all these sorrows. For I am God the Creator, who, when I created my creatures, did not intend to destroy them, but after they had sorely roused my anger, I punished them with grievous plagues until they repent. But if on the contrary they still continue hardened in their transgression, they shall be under a curse forever. Chapter 7. The beasts are reconciled. When Adam and Hava heard these words from God, they wept and sobbed yet more, but they strengthened their hearts in God, because they now felt that the Lord was to them like a father and a mother. For this very reason they wept before him and sought mercy from him. Then God had pity on them and said, O Adam, I have made my covenant with thee, and I will not turn from it, neither will I let thee return to the garden until my covenant of the great 5 days and a half is fulfilled. Then Adam said unto God, O Lord, thou didst create us and make us fit to be in the garden, and before I transgressed thou madest all beasts come to me, and that I should name them. Thy grace was then on me, and I named every one according to thine mind, and thou madest them all subject unto me. But now, O Lord God, that I have transgressed thy commandment, all beasts will rise against me, and will devour me, and eat, and Hava, thy handmaid, and will cut off our life from the face of the earth. I therefore beseech thee, O God, that since thou hast made us come out of the garden, and hast made us be in a strange land, thou wilt not let the beasts hurt us. When the Lord heard these words from Adam, he had pity on him, and felt he had truly said that the beasts of the field would rise and devour him and Hava, because he, the Lord, was angry with them too on account of their transgression. Then God commanded the beasts and the birds and all that moves upon the earth to come to Adam and to be familiar with him, and not to trouble him and Hava, nor yet any of the good and righteous among their posterity. Then the beasts did obeisance to Adam according to the commandment of God, except the certain serpent against which God was wroth. It did not come to Adam with the beasts. Chapter 8. The bright nature of man is taken away. Then Adam wept and said, O God, when we dwelt in the garden and our hearts were lifted up, we saw the angels that sang praises in heaven, but now we do not see as we were used to do. Nay, when we entered the cave, all creation became hidden from us. Then God the Lord said unto Adam, When thou wast under subjection to me, thou hadst a bright nature within thee, and for that reason couldst thou see things afar off. But after thy transgression, thy bright nature was withdrawn from thee, and it was not left to thee to see things afar off, but only near at hand after the ability of the flesh, for it is brutish. When Adam and Havah had heard these words from God, they went their way, praising and worshipping him with a sorrowful heart, and God ceased to commune with them.
Whoa.
Isn't that sad?
I know.
I feel so sad for them. I see in the chat, there's people who are like, I feel so sad whenever I hear this account of what happened to them, because everything changed. Like the bright nature that they had, that was like not flesh, I can't even imagine what that would have been like, where it was more of like a light, where their bodies were unable to be harmed. They didn't have to eat if they didn't want to. I mean, just to go from that type of a being to this flesh that can easily be hurt, and to have pain, and to have, we read about in the Legends of the Jews how the Most High told Adam, he's like, okay, you're going to have 70 afflictions right now. You're going to start with your eyes. You're going to have issues seeing. You can't see as far like you used to before. You're not going to be able to see the spiritual world. Like, you cannot just look up and see angels like you did when you're in the garden. Your ears, you're not going to be able to hear the angels singing anymore. You're not going so many things changed, and they just hated it. They're like, oh my goodness, what did we do? And we don't want to be here. Let's just die. Let's just get out of here already. And that whole 5.5 years prophecy, you know how, there's a verse in, I think Paul talks about it, how a day with the Most High is as 1,000 years.
I was literally about to ask you about that.
That's where it's not 5.5 literal days. It's 5,500 years.
Yeah, 5,500 years.
Yeah, and that's how much time he had to wait until Yeshua for deliverance. So he's thinking, oh, 5.5 days, I can make that, no problem. We'll just like hang out, we'll watch the sun. At first he thought the sun was going to kill him, It's just, I was afraid of the cows, that they were going to come and murder him and Eve. That's why he had all the animals come and obeisance is like bow to them, where Adam would name, So because the animals had to get used to them too with their new bodies. Like they weren't used to having them, they had flesh just like the animals, where they got thirsty, they got hungry, like it wasn't like they were eating fruit like they did in the garden just for the pure pleasure of the taste, like how the angels do. But they need something so that they're not weak. Yeah. But anyway, I'm sorry, continue.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
Okay. That was sad.
Yeah.
Okay, chapter 9. Water from the tree of life, Adam and Havah near drowning. Then Adam and Havah came out of the cave of treasures and drew near to the garden gate, and there they stood to look at it, and wept for having come away from it. And Adam and Havah went from before the gate of the garden to the southern side of it, and found there the water that watered the garden from the root of the tree of life, and that parted itself from thence into 4 rivers over the earth. Mm-hmm. Then they came and drew near to that water, and looked at it, and saw that it was the water that came forth from under the root of the tree of life in the garden. And Adam wept and wailed, and smote upon his breast for being severed from the garden, and said to Havah, Why hast thou brought upon me, upon thyself, and upon our seed, so many of these plagues and punishments? And Havah said unto him, What is it thou hast seen, to weep and to speak to me in this wise? And he said to Havah, Seest thou not this water that was with us in the garden, that watered the trees of the garden, and it flowed out thence? And we, when we were in the garden, did not care about it, but since we came to this strange land, we love it, and turn it to use for our body. But when Havah heard these words from him, she wept, and from the soreness of their weeping they fell into that water, and would have put an end to themselves in it, so as never again to return and behold the creation. For when they looked upon the work of creation, they felt they must put an end to themselves.
So sad too. They're like, Now we need water to bathe. We're like the animals. We need to drink it to keep us going. And yeah.
And then chapter 10. Their bodies need water after they leave the garden. Then God, merciful and gracious, looked upon them thus lying in the water and nigh unto death, and sent an angel who brought them out of the water and laid them on the seashore as dead. Then the angel went up to God, was welcome, and said, O God, thy creatures have breathed their last. Then God sent his word unto Adam and Havah, who raised them from their death. And Adam said, after he was raised, O God, while we were in the garden, we did not require or care for this water. But since we came to this land, we cannot do without it. Then God said to Adam, while thou wast under my command, and wast a bright angel, thou knewest not this water. But after that thou hast transgressed my commandment, thou canst not do without water wherein to wash thy body and make it grow, for it is now like that of beasts, and is in want of water. When Adam and Havah heard these words from God, they wept a bitter cry, and Adam entreated God to let him return into the garden and look at it a second time. But God said unto Adam, I have made thee a promise. When that promise is fulfilled, I will bring thee back into the garden, thee and thy righteous seed. And God ceased to commune with Adam. Whoa. He ceased to commune with them so many times.
Isn't that sad? And we don't know how much time was in between each
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
Like, he ceased to commune with them for how long?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just wanted to keep dying.
Yeah.
I kind of think of it like Abraham when he was on his journeys and everything. Like, Yeshua only showed up every once in a while, you know? Like, and, you know, when he was about to leave his father's house, Yeshua showed up and was like, you gotta go.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he was making the promise to him, Yeshua showed up. And then...
And in the fire.
In
with
the fire,
Nimrod.
too. Yeah, he showed up, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's like... He only shows up in certain moments before. So...
Yeah, that's true. Before he actually came to be the salvation of the world, right? After the 5,500 years or the 5.5 days that Adam's thinking. Oh, boy. But yeah, so that reading, it is a very sad reading because
It's sad.
these are like our ancestors.
Yeah.
To think of that too. Like, these
Our
are
very
not just
first
this.
ancestors.
Yeah, they're not just like these strange people that we have no connection with. These are like our ancestors, what happened to them. And now that we know like what land all of this happened, like, I mean, to me it's just, I saw some people in the chat saying, now that I know where all of these things happen, I want to visit the Philippines much more than Israel.
Let's go.
I know. See, Kaylee's a tour guide.
Hebrew Hawaiian trip.
I know, right? It makes me want to visit it more too because we were there in 2019. Just Noble and I went, and it was more of a trip to take care of all my dental stuff, and so it wasn't a very enjoyable trip for me. Just I was in pain we were there for a month, and I was in pain 3 weeks out of the month because every other day we had more and more dental work done, just taking out all of the amalgam fillings because it's illegal there in that country to have mercury based fillings or silver fillings. But yeah, so I mean, I didn't get to see that much. We were only on 2 of the islands from this map. Isaac, maybe you can zoom into this so they can see which islands we saw. We were so close to that Kamigan Island when we visited there. Noble and I stayed at first on this little island. It looks kind of like a turtle. Let me see if I have a zoom in of that.
Your heads,
Yeah.
ladies.
Oh, okay, sorry. We're both leaning in. So you can see this one is Bohol. It kind of looks like a little turtle. You can see like the head and like the tail and the little legs and stuff. And this is the one where we stayed like right here. So it's facing this Kamigan Island and it's super close. Like when we first flew in there, we flew into Cebu, which is supposed to be called Cebu or in ancient times Sheba, which is a very well-known name, the Queen of Sheba. There's a whole nother tangent I could go off on there, but this is the island of Cebu, or Cebu, and this is the major city of Cebu. This is like the second largest city in the entire Philippines, also known as, by the locals who have no idea what this meant, called the Queen of the South. That's what they actually call the city. And nobody knew why. They're like, oh, maybe because Manila's the queen of the north, or the king of the north, or whatever. But there's no logical connection unless you know that's where the Queen of Sheba was from. So this is the Queen of the South, Cebu. We flew in there, and then we took a ferry from here, around here, and to the port in Bohol. Actually, it was here. Panglao is the port. Tagbilaran is the major port. I think we were there. And then some friends picked us up and they drove us over here to a little town called Hagna. And from there, I mean, it looks kind of far, but it's very close. You can see Camiguin Island from the coastline from right there. So that was the most enjoyable part of the trip, is in Bohol, where we actually got to go and see things and go to a church that our friends had started over there. And Noble actually preached there in another town. But it was just, the people there are just beautiful. I mean, it's not big city. The Bohol is huge, though. Like, I think they said it takes like 4 or 5 hours just to drive around. I mean, it's a lot bigger than it looks on here. And even Camiguin Island, like, I think they said Bohol is like 6 times the size of Oahu. So you can imagine, like, it's more like Big Island.
More like Big Island,
bigger
then.
than Big Island, I think
Oh.
this is. So to drive around here, it looks small on the map,
Yeah, it
but I
does.
think Camiguin is more the size of Oahu. Like, just to drive around is maybe 1.5 to 2 hours around here. But you can see this, and also too, like, you can kind of see like these little trenches. If you look, there's several trenches that lead down into this much deeper area where the Garden of Eden would have been located. So kind of like small little rivers that came off the Pishon River that encompasses the entire land of Havilah would have come off and gone naturally downhill into this area where the garden would have been located, before all the oceans, of course. And yeah, I mean, there's some manuscripts that say like Jubilee says that the garden is still located there, and Enoch is in that garden writing down all the works of men. Also in First Enoch, there's quite a bit of evidence that it's located in this land that's to the far east, which ironically, I think it's cool. In Scripture it says, what direction will the Messiah return from? The far east. And so it'll be neat because those who are living here, the people, will be the first to see him when he returns.
We gotta move.
And
It's
where are we
already
at?
the plan.
We're in the far west here. We'll be the last to
yeah,
move.
yeah.
We're in Hawaii.
We gotta go.
But it says every eye will see him. So it's just that they will be the first to see him
That's
in
where he'll
his
step
return.
down.
Yeah, it's so close to where, like, there's all kinds of connections to this land. I mean, please go and watch the God Cultures. You have to look on their playlist. The first group of videos that they put out, it's called the Solomon's Gold series. You could just binge watch that. Like, there is so much evidence. It's just like nobody's been able to contest any of this evidence and have like valid claims that this is not the land of creation. This is not where the Garden of Eden. I mean, it's all the evidence is there. It's just been hidden for so long. And if you know anything about the Philippines, like, what is the 90% of the religion there is right now anyway?
Catholicism.
Yeah, a lot of Roman Catholics, and that was by design. I mean, they used to be a very godly nation where they worshiped the one true God, the Most High. And even Magellan, the Spanish explorer that went there, he had a scribe named Pigafetta. And they talk about this a lot in the God Culture videos. I didn't know any of this history until they were teaching this online. And now it's cool because their ministry is focused on traveling all around through the Philippines and giving free conferences. So I think the last one that Tim taught at was here. I'll show you this one. Here in Mindanao, in a city called Davao, the largest city on this island. And there was over 3,000 people there hearing him talk and telling them their lost history. But you can use, like, there's Spanish documents that are still available today that they're integrating even into the public school system in the Philippines, so the children can learn their true history. A lot of it was just hidden by the Spanish when they came, and for a reason, they didn't want them to know that they were the wealthiest nation on earth. Like, you never guess right now. I mean,
And just think of the Native Americans with the Americans. It's
yeah,
just-
similar thing. They want to hide the history. But there's little hints all through the Bible and all through the extra biblicals that this is the ancient land of gold, and that this land is actually the location of the second Exodus. In the book of Second Esdras, we're going into the book of Second Esdras in our in-person Bible studies here, starting tomorrow. And this book of Second Esdras talks about this land, and of course it's under a different name because all the translators, it's like they all conspired together to give it as many names as possible so nobody connects it to being the same place. But it also doesn't help too because there are different sections of this land. Like there's the north, there's like the Visayas area, like this is like the Ilocano, Luzon area, then this is called the Visayas, you can see this word right here, and then Mindanao of the south. And so there's 3 like separate areas that's talked about. They also make the connection that that's why they had the 3 wise men. Because they had one from this area, one from this area, and the kings, right? The leaders from this area, the leaders from this area. And I don't think there was only 3. I'm sure they went like with a huge group, you know, like how Filipinos like to travel.
Yeah.
You know, just not like 3 people would go like on a huge caravan. There'd be major amounts. They were the ones that knew about the prophecy from Messiah to come, and they had their own, like they were high tech. They had their own astronomers. They were waiting to see the star in the sky that was prophesied by Isaiah. You know, they knew the scriptures like back and forth.
And
Danielle, yeah. So they knew like what to look for. And of course we always see the depictions of them coming on camels and, you know, from a faraway land, which they did. You know, how they traveled by ship and then they had to get Uber camel and then get to Jerusalem, right, from the port. A journey.
XL.
And another clue that they had to come from, they had to come from very far is about how old was Yeshua by the time the wise men got there?
Like 2 years old.
How old were the babies that Herod wanted to kill after he heard the wise men testimony of when they saw the star and he
2
calculated?
years or younger.
Exactly. So it wouldn't have been immediately after Yeshua was born. It took them a while. And then you look back at the Queen of Sheba and how long the ships of Tarshish took to travel between Israel, like the southern port of Ezion-Geber, and this land, the land of gold, where Solomon got the gold from the temple. It was a journey of 1.5 years each way. So that would line up to have the wise men take that long too. And then also still have to ride camels or whatever transportation from the port to Jerusalem, which is like way up in the mountain, and then to get to Bethlehem after that. So, and what are the gifts that they brought him? They brought him 3 major items, the wise men.
Incense, myrrh, and
The number one thing?
gold.
Yeah. So of course the best gold on earth. It has to be from the place that came from the best gold
And
on
the
earth.
incense that
The Pili tree.
yeah,
exactly.
sacrificed.
Exactly. And when we continue to read in this book, the first book of Adam and Eve, you're going to see that those were the exact 3 things that Adam requested to have brought to him out of the Garden of Eden. Bless you.
Thank you.
Those 3 things. Incense, gold, and myrrh. Those are the 3 things that he requested that an angel could bring him out of the Garden of Eden. It's just so he could remember. Yeah.
So they were giving back what Adam took from the garden.
Whoa.
To the Messiah.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Isn't that trippy?
Oh my gosh. That makes it way more.
Now you know why it was those 3 things, right? Like it had to be. It had to be those 3 things. And it's also too, those are the 3 things that Adam had, and during the time when he was sorry on Mount Hibuk.
Because they understood and they knew that he was the one to come and free Adam. Whoa.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. It's really mind-blowing, isn't it? All the connections. And if you don't know these connections, if you still think that the wise men came from the Middle East, or or that they came from Babylon, that's the general consensus among like biblical scholars, is that they traveled from Babylon. But you look at like Babylon, the distance from Babylon to Jerusalem, it wouldn't have taken them 1.5 years, or like almost 2 years to get there. Like why would they take so long? It maybe a month to get there, but why would they take forever to get from Babylon to Jerusalem if they saw the star at the time of his birth? It doesn't nothing else makes sense. They had to be coming from really far away. So I thought that was a wonderful reading. Thank you so much, Kaylee, for helping me out.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us. We will continue our study. Hopefully Noble will be returning next week and he can give all of you a Hebrew lesson. Because today is the first day of our marriage counseling class, it's supposed to start in about half an hour. We're going to end just a few minutes early tonight. But Isaac, would you mind closing us in prayer and just we wish all of you guys have a wonderful, blessed week. And Isaac will, if you don't mind, closing us in prayer,
Sure.
and then
I'll do it from here.
we'll say Shalom to everyone. Yeah, you can stay there.
Thank you, Abba, again for your teachings, for who you are. Thank you that we continue to get to learn more about you and more about what happened to our ancestors, so that in return we can understand how to better get to know you. You are the God that reveals all these things, because you are truth itself. And we thank you, Abba, that you have given us ears to hear and eyes to see. Thank you, Yeshua, again for calling us to your kingdom, grafting us into your vines. And may we never forget that it is you and you alone that has made the way, not only to break the curses, but to make the way so that we again could commune with the Most High again. Thank you for your faithfulness, your absolute faithfulness. Even though it took 5,050 years, you still made a way and you still did it. So we praise you, Yeshua. We praise you, Yahweh. We praise you, Ruach Kodesh, for you are God and the only one that is worthy of it. And I pray for everybody in the chat, in our time together, that they would have a blessed week until we meet again next week. In Yeshua's name, thank you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you all of you for joining us today. You have a wonderful week. I'll be doing another show with Zen, Yah willing, on Wednesday. You can tune in to join us there. And we just pray that this message blessed you today. Share with your friends. If you have no one else, some of your friends might not have heard this information before. It's a good way to introduce them and to get them to be part of our fellowship. So you guys have a wonderful rest of your evening, and thank you for hanging out with us. And continue to send in the prayer requests. You can always send it to me at biblicalhebrewhawaii@gmail.com. I usually check the email every few days, so if I don't get back to you right away, I will soon. So blessings, everyone, and shalom.
Shalom.